Hello and welcome to Herein Lies the Peace of God in the Awakening Together Sanctuary. The Awakening Together Sanctuary is an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. The host of Herein Lies the Peace of God is Reverend Jacquelyn and Eckert, the President and Minister of Awakening Together. Our co-host is your favorite anarchist preacher, Reverend Glen Ganaway, integral scholar. The Course in Miracles says this about discerning one truth. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
Sing glory, glory, hallelujah. How wonderful thy holy name. Now I can see with God's own vision, and I see peace instead of pain. Yes, I see peace instead of pain. I can see peace instead of pain. Amen.
Get a little bit of a wee doggy in there, and I think we might be set. Welcome to Herein Lies the Peace of God. My name is the Reverend Glen Ganaway, your favorite anarchist preacher, and I am here with another Reverend who is becoming a very, very close friend of mine, Jacquelyn Eckert, the President of Awakening Together. It's an honor.
Thank you. I feel the same, Glenn.
And we've got pets, we got cats, we got dogs, we got all kinds of stuff in our room tonight. So why don't you tell them what we're going to talk about today, Jack?
We are going to talk about Jesus.
I know. How did you feel? How did you feel when you found out the term for this week was Jesus Christ?
No, I love it. It's a really sweet symbol, and I appreciate that. The way it's talked about here in the clarification of terms is hey, this is a symbol, guys. You know, you don't need to take this too seriously. It's a symbol, but it's a good one.
And it's so one of the things that the clarifications is so useful for, we're finding out is we already have associations with these meanings, right? We grew up, and a lot of us didn't have because she's talking about Jesus Christ in a way that isn't spoken of Jesus Christ in the regular culture, like that. So she's using these terms that we can say, and we can even say in public, and people will think what we know, what we're talking, that they think they know what we mean when we say Jesus Christ, So I think it's really,
or that Jesus Christ saved us, saved us from our sins.
I know.
Or whatever that is.
John 3:16. Who had John 3:16 memorized before they even went through puberty? I know. No, Shauna said,
no, Shauna, you don't know it. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him
shall have
should not
everlasting
perish, but have everlasting life.
Mm-hmm. you just hit play, right? So Jesus Christ, Jesus has been a character in my life for my whole existence. My dad is a Southern Baptist preacher. I cut my teeth on the back pew of the First Baptist Church. So I've probably heard the name Jesus more than I've heard my own name. So,
as in Jesus Christ, Glenn.
all kinds of ways. I know. I'm so glad that the word Christ has a K in it, because that kind of makes it funny. It also makes it a swear word, right? So, so we're not. I could actually, being somebody who's done a lot of some biblical scholarship and things like that, could go into why it's Jesus.
As in
why,
Jesus.
Yeah, as in, why do Americans call it Jesus, and the Spanish say Jesus, and like there's Yeshua is another pronunciation, and like you use, there's the Hebrew term, the Hebrew letters for it, and how common was this name. We can go into all of that maybe if we have some time, or you'd like to, because I'd love to tell you a little bit about why, what historically, what the word Jesus, where the word Jesus comes from, and historically where the word Christ comes from, and how it relates to the early Christian church, if we get into it. But we're talking about how Jesus Christ is used in A Course in Miracles. And if you don't already know, when Helen Schuckman, who calls herself the scribe for A Course in Miracles, she wrote it down, asked the voice in her head, this very insistent voice, she asked this voice in her head, "What should I call you?" Who are you?
Please give me a name so I don't have to go to the insane asylum.
I know, because she thought she was going insane, right? But I mean, put yourself in her shoes. There's a voice in your head that keeps repeating the same thing over and over again, and it won't leave you alone until you write it down. You can get locked up it would isolate you for less than that. And the voice in her head said, Jesus Christ. So do you think, what do you think, do you think Jesus Christ is a historical figure, Jacquelyn? Like a verifiable historical figure. You could,
yeah, I guess
actually existed. We could prove, and we could say that this historical figure existed.
Well, I think for me, the jury's still out on that. I mean, for me, it's kind of like, it's kind of like reincarnation. Even if that were true, is it helpful?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter to me whether Jesus Christ was a historical figure.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me either. It doesn't matter to me at all. I have no, I mean, if you were going to hold me down and say, you have to decide whether or not you really, this guy really, I would say no. I would have to err on the side of like, no, I don't. So just as full disclosure, I'm, as when I'm speaking, that's the perspective I'm,
No, that's really good, because I think if you held me down, I think I'd actually say yes. And I didn't realize that until you just said it. So that's funny.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
how about that? I know. That's why I love this conversation, is because you and I come from, we say this every week, but our life experience leads to the same place. Our inquiry is all leading to the same place. And yet we have very, very few similar experiences, other than the realization from our own experience that lead us to this path with you and with us here. So all paths do lead to Rome, and we're going to kind of look at that as a tangent, as kind of a sidebar. You could sum up this chapter with all roads lead to Rome. I think.
Interesting.
Because she says in this thing, she goes, every one of you is going to end up as Jesus Christ anyway.
Yeah.
But so did you experience anything this week that this lesson kind of informed you, or highlighted anything for this lesson?
Well, I did, and thank you for asking. I think I don't know how much I want to go into this, but I'll give it a go. I think that this is also will inform my talk this Sunday morning. But it's really this idea of forgiveness, and let's see. It says here in the middle of this, which we can talk about in a minute, but it says he saw the false. Jesus says Jesus remains a savior because he saw the false without accepting it as true, which of course is what forgiveness is, and what awakening is, and all of that. And for me this week, my son has been having some difficulties this week. He has a history of difficulties. And again, I'll be a little cryptic because, you know, it's his private life, right? But I was really presented with the choice to be really worried about him this week or not. And although I had to keep reminding myself that all was well, and the truth is true and nothing else is true. That's clearly where I came out on this, and it wouldn't be without the discipline, without the knowledge of a forgiven world and what forgiveness actually brings, and the knowledge of the power of decision, the power of discernment, the power of choice, and what that brings to the world. And having done that, you know, I'm better for it. I think he probably is too. Things worked out better, are working out better for him than I might, you know, in my worst nightmares might imagine. And I think it makes all the difference to practice forgiveness in that way. I hope that wasn't too cryptic.
No. Absolutely. Yeah. Perfect. That's, I like to get really good, personal lived examples. It helps me remember the concepts and things like that. And, you know, it lets it not to be so intellectual, because I am an intellectual. You know, I do read a lot and look at a lot. This is Valentine's Day weekend, and the love of my life is the Reverend Yolanda, as I know, and she wrote a song about us, about me, about whatever it's called, The Greatest Love of My Life. And the first lines of that song is, even though you know I'm in the room, or something like that. You want to tell him what the I'm quoting Yolanda's song, and
yeah, why don't you tell us, Yolanda? You know the lyrics, and he obviously doesn't.
Even though you mostly think of you, doesn't mean you don't know I'm in the room. Because with your deep thoughts, you are preoccupied. But still, you're the great love of my life.
So
that's great. Thank you, Yolanda.
I'm a known quantity as far as, like, you know, so these personal observations and personal anecdotes and things like that really do sink in with me. You know, they really do, personal stories and things like that. So when you say that, you know, this affected your son, or this helped you deal with, like, a, you know, whatever like that, I'm going to remember that as a way of understanding forgiveness. For me, dealing with this, or really going into the clarification of terms for Jesus Christ. You know, number 5. We're 5 weeks into this. You know that? Or 6.
Yeah, we're sorry, y'all.
Program. You know, you know, took us a month to get to Jesus, but here we are. You know, what I got really from it, and I wanted to bring up Valentine's Day and Yolanda for this, is because it really underlined for me the need for an intimate relationship. Now, I'm talking about necessarily sexual, but I'm talking about somebody who knows you.
Sweet.
I say this a lot in my classes, and my students. It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be your mom or whatever, but somebody has to know you. Somebody. There has to be one person on the planet or something, and can't be your dog, you know, that knows you. That intimate encounter has to be, do you have a reciprocal intimate relationship with anyone? It could be your mom, it could be your brother, your sister, it could be your lover, or, you know, whatever is going on, but somebody. So that was really underlined for me with, because I think that's the, really the seed, or like they do in mantra, the beej, B-I-B-E-E-J, beej kernel to this term, the essence of it. If you could plant Jesus Christ, he would grow into your intimate best friend.
How
If
interesting.
Jesus Christ
That's
was your friend,
fascinating.
you could plant him and he would grow into your best friend.
Hey, I appreciate that perspective. I do want to say that folks are answering the question on the chat board that you asked about Jesus.
Okay.
And since we usually can't get them to talk, maybe we ought to look at what
Okay.
what they've said here.
Okay. So welcome. Okay. Yes. Welcome, caller. So, I would say yes, but not technically. I would say yeah, Jesus does exist. George says, but maybe not necessarily the Jesus we learn about from the Bible, which is kind of interesting. I love conspiracy theory Jesus. It is. Is it different to disclose about is it different to disclose about yourself, another to discuss someone else's history? Yes. Right. Since this is me, I would, it's not problematic for me. My mother really does believe in Jesus. My mother is very, when she has said to me in the past, when she has said that I've changed, or she has seen me, deepen, or whatever you want to call it, be awakened. What she has said to me is, I see you're walking closer with Jesus.
Isn't that sweet? That's so sweet.
That's the way she says it. It's the way she understands it. It means that I am walking closer with Jesus.
Reminds me of that Patsy Cline song.
Just a closer walk with thee.
Yeah, that's one.
I like the one where Jesus asks you to be alone with him in the garden. That's the one I like the most. But my Jesus wears a tuxedo shirt because he can be formal, but he likes to party. That's actually a quote from Talladega Nights, which we do a lot around this house. Because my Jesus wears a tuxedo T-shirt because I party and I want my Jesus to party. Which is an understanding. It's like the Republican Jesus, the Democrat Jesus, the radical Jesus, with all this projection we do onto this person. But tell you what, since you read last time, I'll read this time. How's that?
That sounds great.
And we'll get to what the course actually says instead of riffing off of Jesus, or maybe I'm just.
Shall we read that last? Let's read that last comment, not the Jesus in the tuxedo T-shirt.
Okay. Oh, I didn't go farther up.
And I don't know how to pronounce your name, Avishag. I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. Good.
Yes, I see it as Yeshua became Jesus when he completed his journey to Christ consciousness. Yeah. Yes. Jesus is, Yeshua in the Christ. It's a journey. It's a completion, and that's how the course talks about it as well. So you're right on. You're right on. You got your thinking cap on. Gold star.
That's right.
There, you got your gold
rock.
Star. All right. So I'm gonna read this part. This is the fifth term. So it's Jesus Christ, and just as a note, Jesus appears 5 times in this passage. Christ appears 9 times, and help appears 7 times. So just make your own conclusions about. So she begins. There is no need for help to enter heaven, for you have never left. But there is a need for you to help. There is a need for help beyond yourself, as you are circumscribed by false beliefs of your identity, which God alone established in reality. Helpers are given you in many forms, although upon the altar they are there. Beyond each one, there is a thought of God, and this will never change. But they have names which differ over a time, for time needs symbols, being itself unreal. Their names are legion. But we will not go into the names the course employ, but we will not go beyond the names the course itself employs. God does not help because he knows no need. But he creates all helpers of his son while he believes his fantasies are true. Thank God for them, for they will lead you home. The name of Jesus is the name of one who was a man, but saw the face of Christ in all his brothers and remembered God. So he became identified with Christ, a man no longer, but at one with God. The man was an illusion, for he seemed to be a separate being, walking by himself within a body that appeared to hold his self from self, as all illusions do. Yet who can save unless he sees illusions and then identifies them as what they are? Jesus remains the Savior because he saw the false without accepting it as true. And Christ needs his form that he might appear to men and save them from their own illusions. In this complete identification with the Christ, the perfect Son of God, his one creation, and his happiness, forever like himself and one with him, Jesus became what all of you must be. He led the way for you to follow him. He leads you back to God because he saw the road before him and he followed it and made a clear distinction, still obscure to you, between the false and the true. He offered you a final demonstration that it was impossible to kill God's Son, nor can his life in any way be changed by sin and evil, malice, fear, or death. And therefore, all your sins have been forgiven because they carried no effects at all. And
Praise
so-
Jesus. I'm
I know.
sorry. I just felt it. Hallelujah welling up in me there, Glenn. Go
No
ahead.
problem. And therefore, all your sins have been forgiven because they carried no effects at all. And so they were but dreams. Arise with him who showed you this, because you owe him this, who shared your dreams, that they might be dispelled, and shares them still to be one with you. Is he the Christ? Oh, yes, along with you. His little life on earth was not enough to teach the mighty lesson that he learned for all of you. He will remain with you to lead you from hell you made to God. And when you join your will with his, your sight will be his vision, for the eyes of Christ are shared. Walking with him is just as natural as walking with a brother whom you knew since you were born, for such indeed he is. Some bitter idols have been made, some bitter idols have been made of him who would be only brother to the world. Wow, that's a sentence. Some bitter idols have been made of him who would only brother to the world. Forgive him your illusions, and behold behold how dear a brother he would be to you. For he will set your mind at rest at last and carry it with you unto your God. Is he God's only helper? No, indeed. For Christ takes many forms with many different names until their oneness can be recognized. But Jesus is for you the bearer of Christ's single message of the love of God.
Sweet.
You need no other. It is possible to read his words and benefit from them without accepting him into your life. Yet, he would help you yet a little more if you will share your pains and joys with him and leave them both to find the peace of God. Yet still it is his lesson, most of all, that he would have you learn, and it is this. There is no death, because the Son of God is like his Father. Nothing you can do can change eternal love. Forget your dreams of sin and guilt and come with me instead to share the resurrection of God's Son. And bring with you all those whom he has sent to you to care for as I care for you. And that's the title. That's the end of it there. Wow. I got a couple of really lovely phrases out of that. How about you, Jacquelyn?
Yeah, it's sweet and yet irritating.
I know. That's why we kind of showed up at the beginning. It's like, who's Jesus? Who is this? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was particularly triggered. I have to tell you down here. In fact, I wrote BS. I won't tell you what that stands for, but I wrote BS down here in the margin next to, he will remain with you to lead you from the hell you made to God. Woo! It just seems so unnecessary.
It's
I mean,
hard.
talk to me in plain language.
It's
If
hard.
you're telling me that none of this is relevant, that all the fear and sin and guilt has not changed a thing, then why do you need to couch it in terms like this? Why do you need to talk about the hell you made to God? Why do you need to scare people to death before you tell them, oh, it's okay, you're going to be fine? You haven't done anything wrong. I just don't understand why the course is written that way. I really don't.
Because you
But
have
I'll
to
get off
take
my little soapbox
responsibility.
and you go ahead.
I have a
Take
thought on
responsibility.
that.
Oh, yes, please share.
Well, I think one of the things is that we have to address that consciousness that exists, and that there's a lot of people who have that inside of them that has to be dealt with. And the other side of it is we have to face that type of mind. So I think that the way we read those words is also part of the challenge. Can we read those words with more neutrality, or what are we reading into it? So I think it is pretty intense and it's pretty harsh, but I think it's just trying to cut to the chase. I don't know.
Lovely. Thank you for your perspective. No kidding. That's
Perfect.
great.
Yeah. Yolanda and I really appreciate how snarky Jesus of the Helen and Jesus's relationship is. Sometimes we even do snaps in class because she's just like nails. She just like really gets snarky. But why don't you begin, Jacquelyn, and give us a kind of an overview of what you want the takeaway to be for this.
Well, I think I can go through it kind of, I don't know whether I'll go through it line by line, but I can go through it. Huh?
It's short.
Yes. Well, let's see what we've got here. Well, so we've never left heaven. Of course, we're just confused. I mean, all we're doing is misperceiving. If we see anything but heaven, it's a misperception. That's how we've never left heaven. This I don't know, second line says, but there is need for help beyond yourself as you are circumscribed by false beliefs of your identity. Well, it's just, again, we're just mistaken about what we are. And because we're mistaken about what we are, we've given up our power to see beyond this little, ball of clay and this thinking mind that's full of lack and fear and all of that stuff. We've absolutely abdicated our responsibility for sight. We're the ones who's creating these lacking illusions of what we are, and these illusions that say that I'm over here and you're over there. We've created all that. And because we've created all that, because we are so powerful, it looks so real, we need somebody to come in and go, wait. You're confused, and let me show you how. And that's the role of Jesus, inner Jesus, right? Stage, whatever. And this, it's interesting too. Again, it's like if you didn't have some kind of clue into what was going on here, again, this sentence seems unnecessarily harsh. God does not help because he knows no need. Now, I get that. God is source. God is the absolute. God is life itself. Life itself feels no lack. So there's no lack to be filled, right? I mean, it just doesn't exist. But as long as you think there is, we're gonna create this character in this little play, this little thing you're doing, right? To show you that all is well. You haven't done anything wrong. All is well. God's not even gonna notice because God isness. God is this thing that you're made out of. So let's see. This name of Jesus is the name of one who was a man but saw the face of Christ in all his brothers and remembered God. Of course, seeing the face of Christ is simply seeing there's no such thing as separation. Seeing that there's only one thing going on here. Seeing wholeness and sameness in everyone. And that is the remembrance of God, the remembrance of the only thing going on here, the isness, the substance of life itself. And then the second paragraph talks about how Jesus was an illusion. Well, of course he was. We all are. All these separate, beings. That's an illusion. The many things is an illusion. Again, there's only one thing going on here. But he remembered, and this is the Christ, right? This wholeness. He remembered he was the Christ by seeing through the illusion, by going, I see all of these things that say there's you and there's you and there's you and there's these 10,000 things, but I'm not buying it. He saw the false without accepting it is true. And that's exactly how A Course in Miracles describes what forgiveness is, right? It looks like I'm being attacked, but I'm not being attacked, right? It looks like I have interests that could be separate from yours, but that's not true. When I see with true perception, I see the wholeness and the fullness of life, and that there is no separation between me and you or me and anything else in the world. So it talks about further down in here, it says, Jesus became what all of you must be. He woke up. He woke up. He saw there's only one thing going on here. He saw that nobody had any interest divergent from his own. He saw with the eyes of Christ. He saw with true perception, and we're all called to do that. And because there's only one of us, because there's only one thing going on here, of course, this light is going to spread in the one mind, and it's all, and we're all going, one day we all get it, right? Let's see. It talks again about the final demonstration, right? The crucifixion, of course, is referring to that it's impossible to kill God's Son. There's only one thing going on here, and it's life. And it may look like you're born, you live a life, and you die, but that's not actually what's going on here. It's lifing, and life's over here, and life's over there, and it looks like death, and it looks like birth. But it's continuous. It's continuous. Nothing ever actually stops. Nothing ever actually dies. And that was the demonstration of the crucifixion. You can't kill God's Son, and we are all that. Let's see.
I think about the crucifixion that I was wondering about.
Yes, ma'am.
So I've heard. I'm saying what I think, and then I'll say something I've heard.
Sure.
So the crucifixion is like the crucifying the false self. It's like the death of the false self. And then when Jesus was on the cross, that he actually did complain. And there was one complaint that he made, and why hast thou forsaken me? So that was his last, like he had to go through this rigorous challenge to reach down deep to reach his last complaint. And as he released that was part of his completion, and that he was in a kriya. That position is actually a purification kriya, and that he didn't physically die anyway. He was only on the cross for 6 hours, but that's so. I was just thinking that because I know there's so many representations that people have for the crucifixion, but I was thinking that it represents the completion of the death of the false identifications. No,
interesting. Yeah, I really appreciate that perspective. Yeah, I mean that. Sure. I mean, I'll buy that. That makes sense.
It is. He said, die daily. Don't wait for somebody to come crucify you. Die already.
Yeah.
You can
die already.
I know. Hurry up and let go of all this. But the crucifixion was a lot in me. Was really a lot of things, and that's a pretty heavy subject. I wonder if that's one of the terms. Is the crucifixion one of the terms?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't
But we'll have
read
to,
ahead.
That's a subject I love to talk about. But,
yeah, and I really like that, and I don't know where it appears in the course, but how it talks about the meaning of the crucifixion.
Oh, she calls it the last.
Exactly.
She goes, may your trip to the old rugged cross be your last one.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. Let's see what else I want to say here, if anything. I got to tell you, I'll be interested to hear your interpretation of that paragraph 5.4. again, it's like that heavy, heavy language that the Course likes to employ, talking about you owe him this.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought about it, and what came in my head was that song. I'm not sure who does it. None of us are free. If one of us is changed, none of us are free. You know that song?
No.
No? Oh, okay. I'll have to play it for y'all at some point.
Okay.
But, it's that you owe is like, it's just, again, it's pointing to the oneness, right? It's not like somebody did something and therefore I have this reciprocal obligation.
Yeah.
It's like, let's just complete this thing, right? Let's let this light spread completely throughout the one mind. Anything else? Let's see. Yeah, there is no death because the Son of God is like his Father. Again, you are life. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to be. That's, there's nothing that has to be done here. There's nothing to be earned. There's nothing actually to be atoned for.
Nope.
It's just like, you go be, go have fun. Bye. I'll be here when you get back. Right. I mean, it's just, to me, that's really, really sweet. And then that last paragraph, again, it talks about, he's to read about Christ, to read his words, all that's lovely. Isn't that lovely? And it gives you a good feeling. But you know what? If you want to experience it, if you want to become the Christ, if you want to recognize that you are the Christ, you should practice it as Jesus practiced. You should see the false and know it is false and see beyond it to the truth. So that's what I got out of this.
Beautiful. Can't wait to tell you what we got here. That's really super. I loved what you said, Jackie, in pointing out a lot of that she does return. The last couple of clarification of terms have been fairly, I wouldn't call them simple, but I would call them in like normal, regular language here. And you heard, if you were listening earlier, you heard me stumble over some of the really the grammar in this is off the tip. So just keep that in mind. So in the first paragraph, she says it's all about helpers. And so the idea here is, I know you want help and we're here to give you help. You've just been looking for help in all the wrong places, right? That's why we need this. That's why we need a Jesus. It's because we'll look for help in unreliable places.
Sweet.
But the part that needs to be saved isn't God. The part of us that wants to feel better isn't God. But we don't know. She's offering us the idea that we don't know that. But it's so cool that, like, well, God, Jesus, it takes many forms. God's out there all the time, and there's a perfect companion for you. There's the perfect Jesus for you. Names are just symbols. We're all Jesus, God, the universe is doing this all the time. This Jesus is just, I think, method more than it is person. It's so what's interesting too is I couldn't let this go, because when I was a little kid, because me and my little brother were such smart people, little people, and knew the Bible really well. We would travel around in the church basements and coffee in the fellowship after church. So one day, me and my little brother are at getting in the fellowship hall, and this lady comes up and she goes, "Oh, you're the preacher's sons, aren't you? What are your names?" And me and my brother, being completely pills about it, we said, "Legion, for we are many." Do you know what that story is from when she says the names of Christ is Legion? I know. I'm seeing some. It involves a herd of pigs and a demon and a cliff.
It does, and it's so interesting when Adi Shanti talks about that story.
Oh yeah.
He calls the man in this story. He keeps calling him, and so then Legion says, and it's so weird, because he like gives him the name. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. So it's kind of
tell the story. Tell the story.
Oh, so well, Jesus. So
That's a good one.
Jesus is wandering the countryside. He's an immigrant. He's got one pair of clothes. There's all these people that are following him around, and he keeps getting kicked out of town over and over and over again. Okay, so he's traveling on. He's trying to go back roads, and he's going through the roads, and this guy comes up to him and says, "My sheep are crazy. There's this demon that has been in our village and in our livestock, and I don't know what's going on. I'm really stressed out over this." So Jesus goes, "Okay, show me your sheep." He shows him the sheep, and he goes, "Oh, you got a demon problem." And he goes up to one of the sheep and he says, "So what's your name?" And the sheep says, no. The man says, he goes up to he goes, "The man is possessed. They're bringing him possessed. Yeah. Bringing him." He goes, this demon has been going through the town, and he's been possessing different people. He's in this man right now. This is really terrible. What are we going to do? And he goes, "Okay, let's bring me to a flock of sheep." George, do you know the story better than me? So
no, but I would like to read it for you.
Okay, there, George is going to pull it up. We're going to make this accurate.
Okay, so this is in Mark 5. I'm reading from the New International Version. And so they went across the lake in a region of Gerasenes, and Jesus got out of a boat, and a man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. The man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain, for he had been chained hard, hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet, and no one was strong enough to subdue him. And night and day among the tombs and hills he would cry out and cut himself with stones. And when Jesus saw him from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him, and he shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." And for Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirit." And then Jesus asked, "What is your name?" "And my name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again not to send them out of the area. And a large herd of pigs was feeding in a nearby field. And the demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs and allow us to go into them." And he gave them permission, and the impure spirits came out and went into the pigs. And a herd of about 2,000 in number rushed down a steep bank into the lake and were drowned.
Yeah, pigs. It wasn't sheep. It was pigs. Yeah.
Thank you, George.
Yeah. So the idea that the Course in Miracles uses that flips that story of Legion, we are many, flips it on its head to say, as many demons that you think are in the world that are out to get you, there are just as many or more helpers out there that would help you. You could spend your time. The other subtle thing is you could spend your time looking for demons, or you could spend your time looking for helpers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we talked about that last week, didn't we?
No, she's pretty consistent. Thank you. I really appreciate that, George. I don't like to tell a Bible story that isn't good. I would use sheep instead of. And I forgot about the tombs part. Thank you. So in the next paragraph, she begins to describe who this Jesus is, who the Jesus in the Course in Miracles is. It's a man who remembers oneness. That's who Jesus is. Just somebody who remembers who they are. And the Christ figure is somebody who is no longer a man, but also a man, right? A Christ, a Jesus is somebody who's able to identify illusions, who knows himself as a self inside of a larger self. She uses self twice, small s, large s. To know your small self is embedded in a real self. And she says Jesus needs a material existence to reach you. And we are saved by our own. We're saved by our own, is what she gets at here. Jesus remains the Savior. And so Jesus has form when we need to have form. It doesn't have form when we don't need form. The message comes to us how it comes to us, and it can be in form or not in form, and it doesn't really matter. We need to be able to see that what matters is our ability to see or separate what is false from what is true. That's the whole thing. The next paragraph is she describes what she defines Christ. Christ is the Jesus identification with one creation. So Christ is the one creation. She calls it the perfect creation. She says that she says Christ is the happiness of the Creator. How about that? You are a happiness. What do you call a flock of Christian or a flock of Course in Miracles people? A happiness. I don't know. A plural of A Course in Miracles students is a happiness. I don't know.
I love it. It's like a pride, right?
Yeah, like a pride or something,
I love it.
So Jesus leads the way to follow. You don't have to follow. He's just saying, the food, the party, everything that you want is this way, come this way. He doesn't rope you in and make you go. He just says, I know where the good party is. I know where your happiness lies. It's over here. You want to go? Never forces us. So Jesus knows the difference between true and false, something I'm constantly debating. And I'm glad that I'm really difficult to kill, because I need to learn the same lessons over and over and over again. I'm really grateful for reincarnation, because I'm pretty I can be pretty stubborn. So sin, evil, malice, and fear and death don't touch the oneness.
That's right.
So as with the things that frighten me as a human being or as a body and things that's everything that my body is afraid of.
Right.
So, and Christ having a body himself knows that fear, right? Because this is God came into a body so we could reach us. So God knows that. So he intimately understands what it's like to be human. Intimately understands my humanity. So God, the oneness, whatever, intimately understands what it's like to be human. I think God has deep empathy for us as for the human experience. I really do. Or the Jesus does, however we want to parse that out. And then she defines sin. It's been probably the most difficult concept for me, being so steeped in Western thought, but sin, she says, has no effects because it's a dream. And that Jesus, this Jesus leader, guide, will help us. And she says that Jesus will share our illusions. And then she says something, I think, that she says in a lot of different ways throughout the course, that sharing the dream, sharing our illusions, sharing the dream is how we overcome the belief in sin. Because I can share with you a story and you go, oh, that I can tell you a story about, I'll remember, I used to get suspended every year from school because I would get in too many fights because I was picked on a lot. So I would get suspended every year for fighting. So I was telling a coworker, this is many years ago, probably about 15 years ago, telling a coworker, I was so picked on as a kid. Everybody picked on me. I was, they did things and were mean and I got suspended all the time. And she goes, they were picking on you and you got suspended. I don't know about your high school, but in my high school, they only suspended the guy who won the fight. They only suspended the guy who kicked everybody's butt. They didn't suspend the guy that was laying on the floor after it was all over. They generally didn't suspend that guy. They suspended you. And I had to change my story because I wasn't telling it right. Because I didn't start any of the fights. I always finished them, but I didn't start any of them. And I was still wanting to play some kind of a victim role in all of that, So I was sharing this story So sharing my ignorance or sharing my illusion, she could see through that story like that and say, that's not how it happened. I can tell, listen to you, but that's not how it happened. I can see through the illusion that you're trying to present to me. That's, I think, a good example of what Jesus or the Christ or this character does for us. Helps us to see through this illusion, see through your own narrative and your own story and saying, you know, have you looked at it like this, where you're not a victim, or, you know, that you're, you know, that's really helpful for me.
Yeah, I saw, let me jump in real quick. I saw that theme as well, and it reminded me of NTI talks about how if you learn to remove your own mask, others will figure out how tight their own mask fits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I'm gonna have to remember that. You'll only remember that. So she goes on to say who and what action, the action or the role, the actions that Jesus takes in our lives. So Jesus is the one who shares. It's Jesus shares and is the Christ within me. And what's funny is she says that even Jesus had a little life on earth. The guy world's supposed to be like, you know, they've got statues to this guy all over the planet. And he had, the Course says, a little life.
Yeah.
So how much life is needed? How much do you need? How much information do you need for the whole thing to come apart? You just have to be ourselves, the knowledge of who we are. It's simpler than we ever think. It's the little life on earth. And she says that Jesus leads from hell, something that I'm making, to heaven, which is reality. Right. So joining wills leads to vision. In other words, shared eyes. Shared eyes. Yeah. Be my eyes. You be my eyes. Let's be each other's eyes.
Sweet.
She calls Jesus, she likens him to an old friend. She even says that she's been around with you since you were born. So in another way, it goes, this is your twin. This is your relation. Jesus is willing to be so intimate with you from the womb to the grave, to lie next to you your whole entire life and to share everything with you if you want to. That close, an old friend, and then it's completely natural. Or we can create a bitter idol. I'm going to create a rock band. It's going to be called Bitter Idol. No, I don't know. We're gonna...
So that's like Jesus as a victim, right? Like
yes.
This guy, right?
Yeah, right. That the bitter idol. Yeah, the flip that image on its head. So this bitter idol is a brother who is only interested in the material world. You know any who brothers who the only real thing is the material world? You know a brother like that? I know a brother like that. Forgive our illusions, she says, and she offers us again to forgive Jesus. She goes, you need to forgive me too, because I'm not going to drag you into happiness. I am not going to beat it over your head, and I'm not going to steal your will. You know, forgive our illusions and forgive Jesus. And so all of these relationships are pointing to an intimate relationship. And the way she describes, I think she describes a really good, delicious way of describing this friendship. She says, I'm going to help carry your heart with you. I'm going to carry your heart. We're going to carry your heart. That's just gorgeous, especially if your heart is hurting. You know, that we'll carry it together. It's okay. I know it's heavy. I know you don't know what to do with it. I know you feel like it's going to come apart, but we can hold it. We can hold it together.
Glenn, let me just tell you how much I appreciate your emphasis on this intimacy, because we talk about oneness, we talk about how it works, but what we find as we live it is an intimacy with everyone and everything. And when you speak about it here, I feel that, and I appreciate that, and that's really, really at the heart of this oneness thing.
I think so too. That's why I say if you plant Jesus like a seed, it would grow your best friend. So she wraps up this, and she says in this final bit, this final paragraph, that she uses all these metaphors: God, helper, Jesus. And she says again, we got many helpers, many, many, many helpers. God's helpers have many names. Each one has a single message, like joining the song. She tells about it in other things. Listen to the song, join in your song. Your voice is needing for the song to bring everyone home. She says in another passage in A Course in Miracles, this single message of oneness. And this is where I get off track. We don't need Jesus specifically. This ability isn't tied up with a historical or ahistorical Jesus person. If the gateway is Jesus, that's still duality. The gateway is this one person. It's still duality.
Yeah.
Jesus as a symbol, I think, is really, really difficult because we feel like we're betraying somebody, right? Or we're doing, we're being mean, or it's blasphemy, even. Can you hear that thing in your mind? I remember I was now I won't tell that story. I used to work with the Jehovah's Witness, and we didn't see eye to eye. And so I was a very religious person. So I learned to not say things, to say religious or like things at work and things like that because of her, because it was very triggering for her. So a lot of us, so this idea that this specific, how specific, and the challenge of taking the specialness off of this Jesus character can be a challenge for everybody, or because then that works for everybody else too. It works for Muhammad, it works for Krishnamurti, it works for whoever you're talking about, Gandhi or Muji or anybody, to remove that specialness around that personality, that this physical form contains what you're looking for. So she's again, and then she emphasizes to share your pain and your joy. Share your pain and your joy. Because if you do, this oneness, this relationship, this intimate relationship will transform it into peace. That's the promise here. And that Jesus is teaching lessons that we need to know. Like unity, when they say our elder brother, Jesus, or the wise teacher, Jesus, or, I love or brother Jesus. I love that kind of languages. It brings it into a more intimate understanding to me. So I'll read my conclusion here. When we think about healing and growing up or awakening, we think it's hard. We do need help, but perhaps not the way we think. We're already home in truth, home in the kingdom, but we don't experience that in the material world. And that's where Jesus comes in. Jesus is the living proof that we can do this. We need help, just as Jesus had help. There are helpers all around us in many disguises. Jesus is described as knowing the road ahead, like a Sherpa to Mount Olympus. He's offering to help. The only thing we have to do is share our pain and our joy with our fellow traveling companions, our brother Jesus. How hard is that? Intimate help with our healing is truly possible, If we want to experience our inheritance on earth, we'll listen to those that know the road. With a little help from our friends, we are carrying our heart back to God. And then to quote the last thing she says in this chapter, and bring with you all those whom God has sent to you to care for it, who sent you, and bring with you all those whom God has sent to you to care for, as I care for you. That's the community. I'm going to care for you. You're going to care for her. She's going to care for her. I'm going to care. That's how it works. And we heal through that intimacy knowledge. How do you heal? Sharing pain and joy. And that's a group activity. And it requires bodies and hugs and laughs and all kinds of things. And that's the intimate message of Jesus, I think, to me.
I'd like to play a song for my summary. Sean, is that okay with you?
Well, you better listen, my sisters and brothers, because if you do, you can hear their voices still calling across the years. And they're all crying across the ocean, and they're crying across the land, and they will till we all come to understand. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us are chained. None of us are free. And there are people still in darkness, and they just can't see the light. If you don't say it's wrong, then that says it's right. We got to try to feel for each other. Let our brothers know that we care. Got to get the message, send it out loud and clear. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us are chained. None of us are free. Now I swear your salvation isn't too hard to find. None of us can find it on our own. We've got to join together in spirit, heart, and mind, so that every soul who's suffering will know that we're not alone. Oh, none of us are free. None of us are free, y'all. None of us are free. One of us are chained. None of us are free. If you just look around you, you're gonna see what I say. 'Cause the world is getting smaller each passing day. Now it's time to start making changes, and it's time for us all to realize that the truth is shining bright right before our eyes. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us is chained. None of us are free. Oh, none of us are free. Oh, my. None of us are free. No, none of us are free. One of us is chained. One of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. The one of us is chained. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. No. None of us are free. One of us is chained. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. None of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. One of us is chained. None of us are free.
Okay.
All righty.
You've been listening to Herein Lies the Peace of God with Reverend Jacquelyn Eckert and Reverend Glen Ganaway. To find out more about Jacquelyn and to donate to Awakening Together Sanctuary, go to www.awakening-together.org. To find out more about Glen and to donate to the Mighty Companions Ministries, go to www.glenganaway.com. That's GLENGANAWAY.com.
Instead of pain.
All righty, that is the show. That is the program, ladies and
Bye,
gentlemen.
y'all.